Yes, yes, yes. We are live in full effect. It is Victor Vanico Johnson. Yes, you are right. You're in the right place. It's Monday evening, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Create Your Future Self Live is in effect. We want you to take this opportunity to share, like, comment. We've got a great discussion for today. Laquita should be jumping in here shortly. She's been holding me down these last couple of weeks as I was traveling over in England. To meet my new grandson. So shout out to my daughter Ty and son-in-law Emmanuel. And yes, we are back stateside and ready to start talking more money, finance, financial literacy, financial futures. And I have a great guest with me, a great supporter, great friend. This gentleman is definitely somebody I would encourage you to connect with on social media. Porter Bell, how you doing, sir?
How you doing, brother? How's it going?
I'm doing great, man. Great to see you as always. We appreciate you jumping on today. You've been on before, and we thought it was important to give you another shot to come back in because financial literacy, financial planning never gets old, right? Like we always need to be learning about this stuff.
Well, if you want something old, you want old money.
That's it. That's right. You got to hold on to it, man. So real quick, I'm gonna just kind of touch base with folks out there. If you are following us, Create Your Future Self Live. Again, we're here every Monday evening, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We've been running for 2 years now, and definitely, if you are out there, if you are an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, or just want to get some great information from other entrepreneurs, this is the place to be. We invite others who want to be guests on the show to email us at createyourfutureselflive@gmail.com, and you'll have an opportunity to get scheduled for a future Monday. But today, yes, we are happy to have a good friend here, Porter Bell. And so Porter is an insurance broker. He is also a financial planner. So we're going to talk a lot today about how you out there can secure your family's future, secure your legacy with some financing. So Porter, what's going on out there today, man? How you feeling?
Oh, feeling very good, very good. Glad to meet with you today.
Yes, sir. We appreciate that. So I'm going to jump right in, man. So tell the good people what you do, how you're out here helping communities, families secure their finances.
Well, what I do is I help to educate, and I work along with families in order to find out their plans, their goals, and what it takes to make their future financial progress work. And surprisingly, they found out how inexpensive it is where children are concerned.
That's interesting because I know a lot of folks stay away from financial planners, especially if their family hasn't typically gone to financial planners. You know, let's just be real. In the Black community, a lot of times we don't think about getting an actual financial planner, but we should, because we have missed out on tons and tons of millions of dollars of wealth building over these last few decades. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. And you said something there that's really hit me. It's not as expensive to build for your future as people think, right?
That's very true. And the main thing that parents can't be afraid of, and young men and young women, you can't be afraid of this thing called your money. See, clarification, people say, oh, he's a financial broker. He does this and that. I don't make your money. Okay. This is your money. You know, you can have 3 small children and invest maybe $20 each child, even from birth. They can have $50,000 on this earth already. It's just babies, a piece.
Wow. So wait, we can't just coast past that information. So you're saying a young family out there, they just had a baby and they can invest $20 a month or roughly $20 a month, and that is potentially $50,000 in insurance on the child. Is that correct?
On each child.
Wow.
And not only is it on the child, is being invested according to how the stock market is going. It's not tied to the stock market, but it's being, put into a form of growth that's going to help the child just by being young. The younger you are, the more you put into it. You have a different type of piggy bank. There's a piggy bank you can put change in. You know, the rolling and the folding is two different things.
Yeah, we like the kind that folds. Absolutely.
Yeah, we like the kind that folds. So the thing is, it's also for, you know, when they start, you know, getting that job at McDonald's, Burger King, they also have a set amount that the child can invest or the parent can invest up to, you know, up to a year. Mostly it's no more than $600, but it strengthens the policy. And no matter how the, you know, the economy is going, how the market's going, you're protected because you have a zero floor. Okay, so that zero floor means you'll never earn lower than this. And they have guarantees where you're guaranteed a 2%, or, you know, it's just a slow, you know, road to growing your finances.
Right.
Most parents don't understand. After 5 years of investing, that money is yours. You can take down 10% of that money. So you might want $100,000 policy, or if you own a business, $200,000 policy. After 5 years, you can take down 1/10 and you never have to pay it back.
Wow.
That's why.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand that, man. I don't think they know about that. So first of all, we got your information here, porter.bell@yourcornerstone.net, because I think it's going to be some people that need to reach out to you to get as clear on this as possible. But the point being is that from birth, folks can invest or put money aside into, I guess it's a life insurance policy, or what would you call this type of policy?
Well, you have whole life, and which is not tied to the stock market. It's still something that you can add to or invest in. And you have index universal life, which is really not tied to the stock market, but it's based on how the stock market works. So you have your cap rates. You have different investment opportunities that you can look into and find out which one is right for you.
Gotcha. No, this is awesome. So if you're a young family out there, young couple, young mom, young dad, you know, this is something you probably should look into. You know, we say that life insurance and these type of savings plans are expensive, but the reality is Porter just mentioned $20 a month in this example. And I'm pretty sure most of us have found a way to waste $20 every single month, somehow, some way. So why not put that money towards building something for your family, building something for your child? Let's talk about on the opposite end of the spectrum. Maybe some folks have got a late start to investing, to saving for their retirement. Maybe they're knocking the door of 50. Maybe they're already 50. What's something that you would recommend or encourage for that person to start to still be able to put some money aside for when they are fully retired?
Well, I would say index universal life, it would still be cheap. Somebody around in their 50s would probably still be no more than about, you know, depending on health, of course, would be no more than about $40 a month for a $50,000 policy. So it's something that people have to look more into, how to say, being prepared, not scared. But why not make some money in the interim while I'm, you know, saving? Let me make a little bit more and let me gain some percentage, you know, percentage rates are usually capped off. Some of them are uncapped for those who are gamblers, you know, but are basically capped off at about 13%. So if the market makes 13% that year, you'll make 13%. But anything over that, 15% or more, you know, you're still going to be guaranteed the 13%.
Right. And it's not often the market going to exceed 13% in a year. So that's pretty cool. What would be the bottom number is if there is a bottom number in that example? I mean, I guess anything between 0 and 13%.
Yeah, well, 0 is your hero. You're not going to lose. But the key factor is, like I said, that investment of maybe up to $600 a year makes the policy stronger because there are taxes and fees that go with everything. You know, you'd rather be with a A-rated company, not saying what the choice might be, but I represent 2 A-rated companies. And usually when you deal with companies like that, you have a guarantee, a better guarantee, because they have solid investments and solid, you know, people that you know, invest for you.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah, those brokers fees can be something depending on who you're working with. So I know that's very important. Even a lot of people don't realize, even with their 401k plans, you know, that those brokers fees, they're still hitting you. So please look into the detail of that, folks out there that have those type of retirement plans. And so, all right, so that was one thing you mentioned. Let's talk a little bit about financial literacy for young people, period, right? It's become more important. You know, at my company, Nico Don Projects, we take a great pride in creating this summer youth program called Create Your Future Self Youth Program. We're focused on 13-year-olds through 18-year-olds, teaching them about credit building, saving, compound interest, the rule of 72, how to become owners. Like, we really want to teach these young people about becoming owners so that they can buy back their community, buy back ownership in the community and property in their community, as opposed to running out of high school and immediately looking to go work for somebody else. We really want to teach young people how to build their own. And so give us some tips that what families can share with their teenagers. Maybe they got some sophomores, juniors getting ready to head out to college, some seniors getting ready to walk out the door. Give us some of your best tips. And I got a few I could throw out there too, but you're the financial planner. What would you start with some of these teenagers today?
With teenagers, I think the best thing to do for the parent as a leader, whether it's single parent home, two parent home, is to get shoulder to shoulder with them and allow them to see what your bills are every month, how those bills get paid. See, those things are very important because, you know, kids think money that grows on the tree. You know, they go out in the backyard and shake the tree and it's going to fall. But when they become more realistic and more cognizant about what it actually takes, you know, for their parents to make money. I've worked at Briggs and Stratton. I worked in where they pour steel. Take your kid on your job with you one day and just let them know this is what I pour steel, I oil machines. I did things that make a decent wage. Don't get me wrong. Right. But let them see where this come from. This check just doesn't happen every week because you're there. You have to do something to earn it. And we have to teach our children to earn things, and how we earn things. We have to be a proper example. Yeah.
No, that's great guidance, man. To look over your utility bills with your kids. We used to do this thing called family meetings. And, you know, I wish I would have did it more often, but I still think looking at them now, they took something away from those conversations, just how understanding how overusage of power increases the amount of your utility bill. And, you know, eating out and things like that, you're going to spend more on that one meal eating out for $10. That $10 would create probably a whole day's worth of meals for your family if it was spent in the grocery store. And just little things like that really do make a difference when we're talking to kids. And I'm glad you mentioned that one about sharing with kids about the bills, but not only that, taking them to the job when you have that opportunity so they can see how that money gets generated. I think a good exercise too is to break down things into how many hours it would take to pay for something. For example, if you were in this example, if you were talking to your kids in the house and you like, look, you see that Toyota truck out there? We pay $500 a month to drive that truck. Well, Dad only makes $50 an hour, so it takes me 10 hours to pay for that truck every month. Like, really breaking it down that way, I think sometimes, because these kids are quick to run out and buy some $200 sneakers. Well, if they only making $6 an hour, you do the math, man. You know what I mean? It's taking multiple hours, and I think if they equate that to, hey, that's real labor I got to put in, or I got to figure out a way to generate some passive money so I could do it without working. But I think that helps people too, to really realize, man, it costs me, 80 hours to pay for all of my monthly expenses, you know, and sometimes that can be a way for people to kind of cut back on spending unnecessary dollars and things like that too. What's another tip for these high schoolers getting ready to go off to college, man? Anything you got for them?
I would say tighten their spending habits, because when you mention, and I'm not trying to date myself, when you mentioned spending $200-$300 for tennis shoes, we had two choices when I played high school basketball. You either had some all-star Converse or you had the slip and slides, and he got caught for traveling an awful lot with them. So you have to have the all-stars. And then
And I'm sure the All Stars was a little bit more than the slip and slides.
yeah, they're a little bit more, maybe $12, $14 back then, but
Yeah,
they still were quality, So the thing is teaching children quality at a modest price. And like you said, eating out every day, it gets expensive. And groceries are expensive too now, but you're better off, and old school, we your mother always had something on the stove.
That's right.
I mean, that's the good thing, beautiful thing about mother. She always had something on the stove, and it lasts all week. And McDonald's was a luxury, you know. And we learned a lot because we had those instilled values, I could really say that learning from both parents. My father was a longshoreman in Chicago, and he took me out to watch him work when I was 10. And he was picking up foreign cars out the hull of a ship, with a crane.
Wow.
He said, "You know where I started it?" I said, "No." He said he started running with the 100 pounds on his shoulders all day, every day when I was born,
Oh,
And so he said, "I worked my way up." He said, "I learned how a sense of values from where I started at to where I am today, because now I've worked my way up into, a better job." And like you said, you can get a better job, better house, your next house. It's just cycles, how home buying is in cycles, and insurance is in cycles, Family just have to prepare ourselves, to be ready for it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned something before we jumped on the call. The one young lady that you were talking about, and just really realizing that it doesn't cost as much as we think to be able to save and build for our futures. If you're working with a new client or new family, what's one of the things that they should expect to get from you? I mean, are you going through a full budgeting with them, or do you talk to them about that? Or what does that kind of look like if they're reaching out to you to get started with one of these type of plans?
Well, the key is affordability. Everybody won't have the $20 a month per each child. And still, if they wanted to invest in like a index universal life, maybe $100,000 for myself as a parent, and then add on child riders. You maybe have up to 10 children, and a lot of guys, they might have 10 children. We didn't have that in the back, but
right.
The thing is, you can have a rider for all of those kids of at least $25,000 a piece, and it doesn't raise the price of the policy very high. Somebody 40 years old, they'd probably be $100,000 policy. They'd probably be somewhere around less than 100 a month.
Nice. So that brings another thought to my head. Like a lot of times, I can remember when my grandmother was around and I was much younger, teenager, probably even less than that, seeing little mail come in. And, now that I'm older, I can remember some of this stuff. And I can remember them offering these really low policies, $25,000 life insurance for X dollars a month, whatever it is. Like, we got a level set. $25,000 ain't gonna really do much for a family, right? I mean, we're probably leaving more debt behind than that. So how should a family evaluate how much life insurance they actually need to purchase for their family?
Well, the key is that if the breadwinner was no longer with us, how much would it take to pay for the house and, try to, give you some kind of resilience after the fact, pay for the house and the bills that may come from that. So what you're speaking on is a term life, which is very inexpensive. I just looked at a term life for a guy, maybe about 38 years old. It was $15 a month for $100,000 worth of coverage. So the younger you are, the less expensive it is. But term life is only for 10, 20, or 30 years. After that, you have nothing. So you can always switch over to a different type of policy. Most people will go whole life because whole life will hold you till you get 120. But it can also build value, or you can just have a straight policy. So term life is the inexpensive one that you're talking about. And
Mhm.
it's a good investment when you go into college and, you got your coverage, at least your coverage,
Mhm.
and people should have a talk, with their children, even if that's the one that's going to be affordable for the family.
And so you mentioned term life. Obviously, there has a term period that will at some point end. And I assume the money in that policy also ends with the policy, correct? I mean, so
Yes.
they would basically be buying something, gambling on them living that long, or just to have something in place in case of the unfortunate event. But then before the policy ends, is that when they need to step in and change it over, or do you get any benefit to that? Does it matter if you change over to a whole life before, during, or after that policy is ended?
Right. Well, what they have is what's called guaranteed insurability clauses and riders. So if you get into that 10-year, you may have had, um, we spoke about it earlier, um, jail record, or you
Mm-hmm.
may have been, locked down at one time, or you may have had driving um, privileges taken from you at one time. You have to get your license back. You have to build yourself back up. And then that's good then to get like a 10-year term. And when you get yourself built back up, then go look for a whole life, because it's
Mm-hmm.
inexpensive at the time. And, it helps you as far as having some type of coverage is concerned.
Wow. This is great information, Porter. Folks, if you're out there, definitely need to make sure you connect with Porter. I'm putting his information in here, porter.bell at yourcornerstone.net. And I would highly encourage you to reach out to Porter. This is stuff that changes people's lives. Like, we look at 2020, we got introduced to a new disease that took out hundreds of thousands of people. And I just wonder how many of those Black and brown communities that were heavier hit by this disease, how many of them decided to get their life insurance policies on those family members that were at risk, or just anybody, just cover the family, because we didn't know how this was going to impact our families. And so I'm just wondering how many folks out there were able to change the trajectory of their family, because yes, they did lose Aunt Mabel, but she or somebody who had the wherewithal to get a policy in place on her, and even though COVID or something else may have taken her out, that family now has benefited $250, $400, $500,000 in life insurance that they can pay off the house, keep the house, build on that land, and continue to build up the legacy, as opposed to families that knew this was coming, knew that they had some family members that probably were going to be affected by this and still did nothing. So I'm glad you're sharing this information, Porter. It's super important that families have this type of insurance. I want to visit again on what you were just talking about. So people that have a criminal record, they may have a negative impact to being able to get one of these policies, but you recommended that they might be able to get a term life to kind of build their credibility back up. Is that kind of how I understood it? Is that correct?
Yes, very true, because we all are honest to say that God is good. And we who have made mistakes in our life, we all have our own thing that we have in our heart that we had to grow from.
Yeah.
And these kind of people can't be discounted. They're going to be contributing to society in a positive way. They're letting all the people that were, in jail on the marijuana charges, they're letting them out of jail now.
Yeah.
And they have to go somewhere. They have to go to work. And it's, they have to, rebuild their self-esteem and feel like somebody that, when the kids see them, they're happy to see their father. That's the best feeling in the world, when your kids run around,
Yeah.
happy to see it's either mama, daddy, or grandma, or somebody that's going to spoil them, And
Right.
they need to feel life like that, and they need to feel their adequacies built, and you can do that by investing in, life insurance, investing in, homes with you. And, because people are seeing now interest rates are so low. I know realtors here that can't keep a house on the ground.
Not at all.
I can't keep the house on the ground.
Yeah,
And I see that it's more of a realization of how much power a person can have in the spirit of ownership.
Yeah.
Young ladies that may have one time not been able to go down into their basement in an apartment building and wash their clothes. They got a house now. They can wash their clothes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe happen to your cars outside. Well, now I got a garage. I can put my car in the garage, and that's just the mentality that we need to work with, because it's just ownership, and that's something that you teach also.
Yeah, ownership is critical, man. That self-esteem is totally different. And like you said, having neighbors and all this junk knocking, upstairs, side to side, or having your own place, having a space for your kids, have a room, a place where one of the biggest joys of my life is when we bought our first house, allowing my daughters, one of them loved pink, the other one loved yellow, and allow them to paint 2 walls yellow and 2 walls pink. It was crazy when we moved, but at least they was happy. They had their own space. They were allowed to paint it, and so those type of moments you just can't get back. They start to feel like, hey, I can own a house because my parents owned a house. So I know that's something that I can do too. So I'm glad you're talking about that. Let's talk a little bit about the credit side, because I know that credit scores do come into play in certain situations, or do they come into play as it relates to insurance and building wealth?
Well, it's good to talk on that subject because we have so many people who have the power and so many people that have potential. They just have both. But the key is getting rid of a lot of those credit cards, getting that one main credit card in case something happened that you need it. But the important part about that one credit card is keeping it down to 1/3 of its value or less. Credit score is going to shoot up. I've sold cars before I sold insurance, and I can tell you, a lot of these women, there's some very intelligent women. I sold a lot of Cadillacs to women, and I can tell you, these women are good with money. And these young guys, they put their little ducks in a row too. But the thing is, they get their credit right, they get their bills down, and hey, Mr. Bill, I'm going to take this vacation, and when I'm gonna go out of town, I rent a car, but I'm gonna lease this car because it's at that time a CTS was $299 a month. So when they first made a CTS, most of these women just said, they tore them up. They say they rent a car, they go out of town, but you always want a lady in something that's going to start. Because if not, she's gonna call you.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea for a lady to lease. And man, we kind of tinker with cars, but she's comfortable. She has that sense of ownership. Again, it's a key word. And let's have something to show for our hard work and what we do.
How about that? Some ownership. I love it. So as it relates to getting any type of one of these policies, you mentioned a universal index, universal life, would credit come into play at all with that? Or is it just, if you got the funding, then you're good to go?
Well, it's not so much a credit thing. It's also I would say more of your health. It's pretty easy to get in. You're going to run into some people who, may be sports stars. They may play baseball down there in Texas, and play basketball or something else. And what I learned from a lot of this is people that have the money to outright buy the policy, like you own a business. I can buy $100,000 policy and just let it sit, or I can put $100,000 in each one of my kids' names. I don't care if it's $1 million. That money grows. I was watching a thing on Facebook, and the financial guy was asking the rapper, why would he spend $1 million and in a day or buy a Corvette when you can let that money sit and you can buy the Corvette off the interest?
Exactly.
Your million is still there, but the interest is bought my car. And it's just a thing of being smarter and listening to people. Andre Iguodala, he talks about it, how he looks at money now, and people work with them financially. Shaquille O'Neal, he's a great businessman because he listened to other people, and look at him now.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a big difference, man. And we don't always have the opportunity to get these big lump sums of money, Uh, glory to God for those that are, athletes or whatever. But now we got people coming out and they're getting these big contracts to do other work, STEM work, to do, to be in the real estate world, whatever it is. But you can't expect them big checks to just keep coming every month, every quarter, every year. So always, always, I remember my dad, he would always tell me, man, be ready for a rainy day. Put something up for a rainy day. You just never know. When things are going great, they're going great. And now what we try to do is we just try to stay even keel when big chunks of money come in. Just keep it cool. Make sure, like you said, manage our debt if we got any. And when we're down on the lower end, we're not worried about it because we already know it's coming. It's just that type of mentality. But getting overly emotional one way or the other over your finances can put you in a bad spot. So I'm glad you mentioned that. You gave a great tip. Keep your credit balances under a third of your balance under your credit limit. So if you got a $1,000 credit card limit, you don't want to spend more than $333 on that card, or you'll start to see that score dropping, especially if you're not managing that on a monthly basis. So great guidance there. What about for life insurance? Are there other things we should be doing from a health perspective? I've had somebody tell me, with Black people, a lot of times we want to tell these doctors and nurses and pharmacists everything going on with us, but that could come back and haunt you later. Like guidance you could share on that end of it, or we just stuck?
No, well, what they do now is they send someone from exam one, and if you haven't had a regular medical doctor or physician, they come and take a couple of tests from you, and that's what qualifies you. So I just had one guy, he never had a doctor, and they come out from exam one, and he take a couple of tests, and they always going to check you for COVID, and things like that. Mm-hmm. But it's just being fundamentally sound. That's all you being. But they cover themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Makes sense. What other guidance you want to give to folks out there? What's one of your more common challenges that you see families when they come to you that you kind of have to work with them a little bit to help them get into a special plan or maybe information that they just don't know?
Well, there's different levels of coverages, and there are also coverages that just take care of a person if they just need final expense. Final expense is a big thing now because people who have not had insurance all this time can get a final expense policy, so it's not burdensome on the family.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. Some people that talk with, a whole lot of people, you'll find people that have diabetes, or they might have heart problems. One of my friends had a triple bypass when he was 37, and he's still living today. But, you never know what age something's going to happen to you. And that's why we kind of preach on being ahead of yourself or being, ready for what may happen, because the good thing about Index Universal Life and the way it's set up is even if you were chronically ill, terminally ill, they have different coverages that comes out of that equation. So if you got 50,000 worth of coverage and you have illness, you have different coverages that are going to kick in and protect you too. Because as we know, health insurance is very complicated right now. I didn't want to sell health insurance because it's very complicated now. And so many people are offering so many things, but you don't know what you have until you get sick. Right. You don't know you're covered until you get sick. So it pays to have that Index Universal Life, because there's some money put up somewhere that if I was terminally ill and I was not going to make it, say for instance, my family's going to get 75% of that $50,000 right away.
Because of the terminal ill status.
Terminal ill, chronic ill, it covers different areas and different percentages. And that's very important.
Gotcha. Oh, man, this is powerful information, man. Again, porter.bell@yourcornerstone.net. please reach out to him. Great information, valuable information. And Porter's a wealth of knowledge. He knows a whole lot more than just what he's talking about here. Trust me. So make sure y'all reach out to him and tap in to get this information. This is very useful. I do want to take the opportunity to make sure that folks do know, obviously I'm a real estate investor. So some people have asked me about one of my courses that I put out there about building wealth, which is, how to get into rental property investing. And I've been begged and pleaded to get a deal out there. So I am doing a special deal on it this week. I'm gonna put that in the chat here. The abundance plan. That one we're doing a course that normally costs $597. We're only doing that one for $147 through Memorial Day. So make sure you check into that if you're interested. Just use the code abundance21. So I'm just typing that all in there. Porter, good stuff here, man. So one other question that I have for you. Finish typing that in. All right, very good. So you are in Milwaukee, correct?
Yes, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Nice. So is there, I guess, based on where a person lives in the country, are there different plans that they should be considering? Are there differences in any of these policies? If you live further north because of the weather conditions, does any of that matter depending on what part of the country you live in?
Well, every state has their different set of rules. I'm licensed in Texas and I'm licensed here in Wisconsin.
Okay.
But certain policies I can't sell here in Wisconsin. If I wanted to sell whole life, I could sell whole life through one of my companies. Index Universal Life comes through another of my companies, but you can have a license to sell, but it's not in this state as of yet. And that's what you have to look at too, because there's so many different rules and regulations for each state. And then Texas is a great big state. So
yeah. Well, our Texas folks definitely reach out to Porter. I'm wondering though, because I got a lot of people out in California and stuff. I'm just wondering what they're dealing with, if they got any special restrictions or anything weird going on, which obviously you wouldn't probably have to tap into that information, but it does make a difference in what state you're in, it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I guess the way it is, places like Texas, Minnesota, places where it snows. See, we put up with the snow, but it actually purifies everything. See, where it's hot most of the time, you can get, just certain sicknesses or diseases in the air that ain't gonna go because the heat is maintaining it.
Makes sense.
So that's mostly the difference, and that's probably how they grade a lot, because people are more active in Texas. There's always something to do. And that keeps you young and keeps you vibrant people.
Retired. It's a trade-off one way or the other. You get out more, but got the diseases floating around in there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So they kind of maintain themselves in hot climates. So
that makes sense.
Be where I'm.
For sure. No, it makes sense. Well, good, man. This has been great information. I appreciate you sharing with us today. I want to definitely encourage people, please reach out, porter.bell at yourcornerstone.net. This is a great platform for you to be able to get some information from Porter about how to build wealth through your life insurance policy, how to protect your family in the event of a loss or terminal illness and that type of thing, and some great guidance on how you can start building wealth for your babies at an early age and your young people out there. So definitely reach out to Porter Bell. He is on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. Make sure you guys try to tap in with him as well. Any final comments, thoughts, questions, suggestions, Porter?
Yeah, I would probably be better contacted on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Because there's so many things going on Facebook that we just have to kind of protect ourselves. But LinkedIn is the best way to get in touch.
Gotcha. Well, I am dropping the LinkedIn address in there now. So those of you again out there that are on LinkedIn, one of my favorite platforms, connect with Porter, connect with me, Victor Vinico Johnson. And yes, we love to share information to help people on financial literacy. Again, how to protect your family from from basically poverty. You know, you don't want to die and leave your family in debt. You want to actually leave them in a better financial situation than when you left. So we appreciate you, bro, for coming in again and giving us all this useful information. This is such a good time. I do have one more question. So, you know, with people, a lot of people that I've been working with have improved their credit so that they can buy houses, so they can get these loans and whatnot for, you know, for their business. How can people utilize any money that they got from stimulus checks, PPP, that kind of stuff to invest in their future?
Well, as we learned in one of the other programs, you have to be really careful with the PPP money.
Yeah.
Because I see a lot of people got caught up with that. But the important thing is if you roll over your 401k into an annuity and you're under 59 and a half, you protected yourself. Very important. We had one guy that lost, but he took 120,000. He had 400,000 saved up, and they took 120 because he didn't roll it over into an annuity to protect himself. Those annuities are great. There's 7-year plans, 10-year plans, but if you let it sit 10 years, you can get a check for the rest of your life.
Wow.
Guaranteed to get a check for the rest of your life. And for business owners who want to offer term life to their employees, it has portability. So no matter where this person goes, he can take that insurance with him.
Wow, that's great. Great information. So I want to go back to this 401k thing. You said if you roll your 401k into an annuity before you turn 59 and a half, is that the age? Then what is that? You don't pay a penalty on that or something?
You won't be penalized. At 10%, you're going to evade that. And if you roll it over into what's called a cash balance plan, you can have access to that money.
Wow.
So that's a form of annuity. So you can still have access to it. If you get to that point where you pushed in the corner, but hey, I got some money to protect myself. Hey, you have to know where to put it so you don't fall into the penalties.
That is fire right there. You just saved folks thousands. All they got to do is reach out to you now. Make sure they tap in. That's great information, man. So again, we appreciate you sharing. Good stuff, brother. Good stuff. Well, thank you, Porter. We appreciate you jumping on. And for those of you out there, again, that have questions, reach out to Porter, porter.bell at yourcornerstone.net. Make sure you tap in. The information is in the chat. We appreciate you coming out. And again, for those of you out there who are interested in being a guest on Create Your Future Self Live, shoot us an email at createyourfutureselflive@gmail.com. And we'll be more than happy to reach out to you, find out what your special powers are, and we'll love to have you share it with the community. And until then, we'll see you guys next Monday, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Facebook or on your favorite platform. Guys, have a great week.
Okay. Have a great one.
Peace.
All right.